Hi everyone, this is Mindy Eggen and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be showing you step by step how to put together the Build-A-Critter costume and also the Build-A-Jack-O-Lantern. These are a part of the brand new release from Lawn Fawn, and stick around to the end of the video where I have even more inspiration for you and even a peek at the free gift that you can get with purchase over at Lawn Fawn. As always, I will have my supplies linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. Now, first, let's take a look at some of the products that I'm going to be using today. So, you will need the Build a Bunny. That goes along with the Build a Critter costumes, the Build a Critter More costumes, which is brand new. We also have the Build a Jack o' Lantern, which is new. I'm going to be using the Nighttime Sky, which is previously released stencil, Booyah Stamp. I have the Build a Treat Box Haunted House, and then I'm going to be using the Sentiments banner. So I'm going to walk you through everything, but I do have a lot of this sped up at least 2 times the speed because I'm doing a lot of ink blending and a lot of gluing. So the first thing I'm doing is taking a piece of white cardstock cut to 4¼ by 5½, and I'm using the Nighttime Sky stencil. I had the circle there centered on the card, masked off the areas around it, and then ink blended with a blending brush using butter ink. Now, these inks are all from Lawn Fawn. The butter ink is a really nice light yellow. And then I shifted the stencil over to get the spots for the moon. And for that, I am using number 2 pencil. This became a really great color combination for my moon. Now, once I removed that, I'm going to take the circle part, the mask part for our moon. I rolled up a piece of Post-it tape to stick that down. And then I'm going to start creating my nighttime sky. So I wanted to go with some purples, kind of go along with the kind of Halloween theme. I'm starting out with a fresh lavender, I believe this was. It's a really nice light purple. I start on the actual mask and blend out a little bit so it has kind of that nice light purple glow. Then I'm going to come around from the outer edges, working my way towards that glow using Sugarplum ink. Now, I want to keep that glow, so I'm not going to go in too far with that, but I do want to deepen up those edges a little bit. And the way to do that is I'm taking deep sea ink. So this is kind of like one of those hidden gems that you might not realize is that when you put a dark blue lightly over a purple, it really deepens and intensifies that purple. I'm going to leave that mask in place and place this over into my splat box. I have some Distress Spritz in antique linen. I use this so much for splatters lately. So I put a little bit on my work surface. I take a paintbrush and then I'm going to splatter that all over the background. And at one point, I will bring this in and show you a close up on why I love it so much. When you tilt it in the light, it has the most gorgeous shimmer and shine to it. Now, one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning is I'm using a grassy border. So I die cut that from white cardstock and I'm going to ink blend this. Now, of course, you could do this from colored cardstock, but I like to do my shading with my ink. So I start with a cilantro cardstock and I'm kind of giving this a nice base layer. Then I'm going to come in with artichoke and I'm going to put this color down towards the bottom. I want the top of my grass to kind of glow a little bit or just be a little bit lighter because it's closest to the moon. So I did that artichoke down towards the bottom. Then this is the Build a Jack-o'-lantern, which is so cute. The tops are separate. I'm going to end up putting them together, but the tops come separate. I die cut those from white cardstock. I have my stem, I have my carving knife, and then there are those black pieces at the top that I will show you how to use in just a minute. So as I said, I love to do my ink blending. So I am adding a base layer of color to all of the pumpkins and the top of the pumpkins. That is using number 2 pencil. Now, once I do that, I am going to bring in fake tan and I'm going to use a smaller blending brush to go around at the outer edges of the top of the pumpkins and also around all of the edges. And that number 2 pencil, again, this is such a great combination. If you want to customize your colors for your pumpkins, it adds just that perfect glow and almost takes on kind of that orangish tint, even though I'm mainly leaving that centerpiece as the number 2 pencil. I didn't do a lot of ink blending there with the orange. Now, for the stems, I am using cilantro ink, and I brought in my dye pick to kind of hold that in place while I added that color. That seemed to really help. And I'm also working on a media grip mat. I love this because it holds everything in place and yet it's slippery enough that my blending brushes kind of glide across it. We have faces for our jack-lanterns, so I'm going to line them up over the top of my die cut pumpkins, hold that down with some Post-it tape, and run that through the die cut machine to die cut the faces out of the front of the pumpkins. Then I'm going to flip the pumpkins over, add a liquid glue, and that's where these black pieces come in. So that die cut piece or that die is actually a part of the Build a Jack-Lantern. I just die cut them out of black, but you could die cut them out of maybe some vellum and create a light up card, which I think would be really, really cool. Or you can just die cut them out of maybe yellow glitter cardstock or even just some plain yellow cardstock. So I want the lids to actually be on my jack lanterns. So I flipped them all, both of those over, and I lined them up just right up next to each other. And then I'm taking a low tack tape and just taping the lids onto the pumpkins. Then I'm going to add a dot of glue to the bottom of the stems and just pick up my pumpkin and place that over that dot of glue. I'm only adding the stem to two of the pumpkins. My other pumpkin is going to be wearing a witch hat that I'll bring in here. This is from one of the Build a Costume sets. I did the hat out of black and I did the band on the hat out of a purple glitter cardstock. So in my original card, the picture that you see in the front of the video, that has just a plain colored cardstock, but I thought it'd be fun to change it up and do a purple glitter. Now we have our carving knife. So I did double cut these. I die cut them twice and I layered it together just because I wanted it to be nice and sturdy. And then I can attach these two. I did also die cut out that carving knife from some silver metallic cardstock. Now we have our adorable bunny that we're going to be building up. So I die cut out all of the main bunny pieces out of vanilla malt cardstock. And I'm going to ink blend first with pizza crust just to give it kind of a base layer of color and yet still kind of keep that highlight of the vanilla malt. And then I'll go around those edges with a detail blending brush. And I am using dough ink here. Now, the fun thing about that is the cardstock is kind of fibrous and you can kind of see the fibers once I started adding the ink. And I think that made it look a little more textured, a little more like a fuzzy bunny. So it was really cute. Now, I do have my costume pieces die cut out of colored cardstock. Here, I flip the head over. I'm adding the ears. I'm adding the black for the eyes and the pink for the nose. That's all included in the Build a Bunny. Now, here we have the mask that's going to go over the eyes. That was out of just plain black cardstock. I have my belly. And then we have our superhero costume, which is so super cute. I added gold or what is it? Yellow glitter cardstock behind the star on his belly band. I can't think of it. Belt. You do want to add the body first through the neck of the cape and then add the head of the bunny. I also made sure not to add adhesive behind the body just so that I could tuck the arms in underneath. And then I could go back, kind of lift up the leg and add a little bit of glue there. Here, I am just taking tape runner and adding my grass to the bottom of the scene. It was kind of a random step I did really quick before I decided I should probably get my sentiment done. For the sentiment, I am using an oldie but a goodie. This is the Booyah Stamp Set. I have a black cardstock in my Misty tool that I prepped with an anti-static powder tool. I'm stamping the Happy Haunting in Yeti ink, which is a white pigment ink, and then sprinkling on a white embossing powder. I will have my heat tool warming up and then I can come in and melt that embossing powder. And then I take one of these sentiment banner dies and I trim that out. So it's going to have the flag on one end. I'm going to end up trimming the other side down. Now, everything here is just kind of laid out. I don't have anything glued down yet. This is just kind of to give me placement guide for my sentiment. So I did add the sentiment with some thin black foam squares and then trimmed off the excess. And then I started building up my scene. So that pumpkin with the witch hat, which is so cute, I did add with liquid glue. The other pumpkins I am going to pop up with thin foam squares. I do already have my card base here. I attach the card front to a top folding card base. And then I have it kind of stuck together with Post-it tape so that my card front isn't popping up on me. The cute little bunny costume, bunny, superhero, is added with liquid glue. I added my pumpkin with the thin foam squares, and then also the guts of the pumpkin I had to add in there. That sounds so funny to say, but that's sitting out in front. And the bats I'm adding around the sentiment, that came off of that haunted house set. Now, my finishing touch is going to be adding in white gel pen highlights. So I did that around the hat. I did it in the faces of the pumpkins and even on some parts of the bunny, just to kind of add a little cutesy, even more cutesy feature to it, I guess. And there are so many other cute costumes that's included in the Build a Costumes and Build More Costumes set, which all of this will be linked down below in the video description. I love how this card came out. I thought that is super cute. And I do have more inspiration to share with you featuring the latest release from Lawn Fawn. So this is using the Silly Goose set. I do have a blog post that kind of talk through what I used to create these cards. So I will link my blog down below in the video description as well. My next one is featuring the wood grain stencil, and I have some stitched leaves. I have the scripty fall, which is new. And I do have, of course, some cute little mice added into that scene as well. My next card is featuring the brand new interactive die set, which I will have a video on later in the month. This one is the Knock Knock Who's There. So you can see I combined quite a few of previously released stamp sets in here to create the scene. But the Knock Knock Who's There part is when you open or lift the pumpkin, you have this cute little scene of a mummy and then one of the Halloween mice there. It is really easy to put this interactive card together and it's so super cute. Then next we have more fun with these mice. I was so excited to see the Halloween mice, and they are all dressed up in their cute little costumes. And in my card here, I did kind of a spooky house that they're going trick or treating at. So it's really fun to combine some of these new products with older things you might have in your stash. This next card is also featuring the Build a Bunny costume outfits. And this one I turned into a cute little fairy that is inside one of those carved pumpkins. Or this one is from the Build a Jack-o'-lantern. The border die is a previously released item. And then in the background is a brand new autumn stencil. Then we have the Build a Drink mug add-on. And so there's some really fun elements in here to either make it fall themed or Christmas themed. So I know I'm going to have fun with this when it comes to Christmas time, but right now I did it in fall. So I added some sunflowers and some apples around my mug, along with some patterned paper in the background that is using the new fall favorite flannel pack. And then next, we have your free gift with a purchase over at Lawn Fawn. And this is the Simply Celebrate Squirrels. So you can see in the background there behind the fence is a line of squirrels. That is what you'll receive as a free gift, along with some sentiments that fit inside the speech bubbles. But I paired it with some squirrels from previously releases because they are all so adorable once you start mix and matching. So be sure to check out the Lawn Fawn website for all their brand new fall 2025 goodies. Again, I will have all of my supplies used to make my card project today linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I will see you again soon.